Good morning. It's August 17th, 2014. I'm out here on the Prairie Orchard checking out some of the fruit. I thought I'd give you a fruit update. So we're starting here near the row of pear trees that I planted, again in the context of a prairie setting. And you'll see over here our so-called bosque pear tree. I say so-called because this tree actually is producing fruit that does not look like bosque. You'll see here a squat pear with very little russeting, if any at all, and a reddish blush on the sunny side, which seems more like a camise than actually a bosque. Adjacent to it is a pear that seems somewhat damaged there from a wasp, probably. But the fruit are coming along. I'm probably going to pick some of this fruit in the next month or so and let it set out to ripen on the table. We're getting some twig growth on this tree this year, which is good. I want this tree to get bigger. And then adjacent to it is our white doyen pear tree. This pear tree, as I've said before, is a relatively young pear tree. I planted it just last year, but it had a significant bloom this spring, and I made the choice to not really cut out the little fruitlets to any degree. I was just curious to see how much fruit this tree would produce this year, but of course, so early in its growth, it's probably stunting it a little bit, the fruit burden. Nonetheless, we do have some growth this year. The fruit seem to be growing quite well. Remember, we're a no-spray operation, and so I don't expect these fruit to be perfect, but many of them are close to perfect despite some, I guess, discoloring on the surface. And I'm ready to taste these probably in the next month and a half or so. So my white doyen pear tree. Our grape crop was hit pretty hard by pests earlier this year, but we do have some fruit coming up. A couple varieties of grapes. Here we have a nice red grape that is probably a few weeks away from ripening. And then down the way here we've got, again, some slim pickings, but still some presently green grapes that I think are going to be turning a blue by the time they're finished ripening. I believe this one ripens later on in the fall. We'll see if any of this fruit makes it to the fall. Here we are up in the young apple orchard, and we see the passage of time. Basically, the summer flowers are beginning to pass away and are being replaced by, you can see goldenrod there, the tall greenish yellow stands of young goldenrod blooms. We are here with our first row of apple trees. In the distance there behind some brush is going to be Cox Orange Pippin. This one here is Albemarle Pippin. We have Westfield Seek No Further here. And then the next one in line is our Asopus Spitzenberg, which bloomed this past spring, as you saw in some of the earlier videos, and was left ultimately with one apple, which has been growing steadily through the season. This is a very special apple, as it's our very first apple of the orchard. I guess I can't really say that yet because it hasn't arrived at harvest time, but I'm keeping my fingers crossed. This apple has grown substantially in size. It is now the size of the palm of a hand, and I guess I'm hoping that in another month and a half it'll be even bigger. We've got a nice blush on the sunny side of this apple, and it's looking pretty perfect without any blemishes at this point. So really exciting possibility for the fall this year, our first apple tasting. And then over here on the far side of the property near our driveway, we have our Bartlett pear tree, and you'll see that actually we have some Bartlett pears growing here that have green on most of the fruit with a little bit of a blush here on the sunny side. Not a ton of fruit this year, but what fruit is on the tree seems to be doing reasonably well. We're coming close to picking time, but because it was a very cold winter and a late spring, I'm going to give it at least another week or two before I start picking these fruit. So this is Bartlett. And then finally, near our porch, we have some flowering quince. As I've said before, this is an ornamental quince, but nonetheless produces some fruit. And these fruits actually are extremely fragrant. And in the past, I've picked them usually in the fall and just put them in my office where they release just this beautiful, beautiful odor. So, good crop of quince this year. You can see the fruit are scattered throughout this bush.